Hello and welcome back to the World Championship in Through the Ages. After my two-player game against Mario and after my win, it is now secure that I will move on to the next stage, but it isn't secure yet if I will move on as first or second place. I have definitely a very good position, but lfrantisek can still overtake me. But in this next game, I could make it secure that I will move on as the first place because it's a three-player game against lfrantisek and Mario, so against the two strongest opponents of the groups. And also for Mario, it will be a very important game because it's his last game of the stage. At the moment, he has the same amount of points as lfrantisek, so if he wants to still have a chance to move on, he needs to finish before lfrantisek and ideally maybe win the game. And for him, ideally, then lfrantisek loses the game, then he would even move on for certain, otherwise he will be dependent on the two-player game that I play against lfrantisek. Now, so in this game, many things could get decided, and now without further ado, we are gonna take a look at the game. In this game, I'm in the third position, and first of all, we're gonna take a look at the leaders and wonders. And we can see that there is some lab synergy in H3 with Bill Gates, Sid Meier and Einstein, but there's no spaceflight, at least the Manhattan Project is there. There are also some culture leaders with Marlene, Chaplin and Fleming, so some theater leaders. Then we also have Pierre, but no internet. We have also the Red Cross. In H2 we have Suez Canal and James Cook, so definitely a setup for a colonization game. We have a bunch of culture leaders with Bach, Shakespeare and Gaudi. We also have Newton as a strong economical leader. We have Maria and the Ocean Liner Service. Catherine is the only military action leader. In H1 we have both Strength Wonders, Himeji Castle and Great Wall. We have the Forbidden City, also Machu Picchu is there as well as the Silk Road. We have also one military action leader in H1 with Joan of Arc. We have Barbarossa, Isabella, Eleanor, who all could work nicely in a colonization game. Genghis Khan and Nostradamus can help with the strength, and Michelangelo can maybe work nicely with the Machu Picchu or with the strong production. And Mario is in first position, he will just take the engineering genius, can maybe go for a leader and maybe also for a wonder at the next turn. lfrantisek will go for Hippocrates in a yellow card, that's definitely quite a nice start for him. And I will go for Aristotle. I could potentially think about the Colossus, because there's some nice colonization synergy in the game. But yeah, I don't know yet if I maybe will get Caesar or not. With Caesar maybe it could be interesting, but if Caesar is taken away then I don't know what leaders I will get. Of course now when I take Aristotle I don't know what wonder I will get. I take him together with the rich land, but if the Colossus is there that would be fine. If the Colossus is taken away then there are some interesting wonders that could come out of the deck, like Pyramids, Library, and also Colosseum Necropolis. So I might get one of those wonders, and also with Aristotle and with having additional science, I think it can also be fine to just skip the HA wonder if there isn't a nice one available for one civil action. So I think that's just a nice start. I get Aristotle and I get a rich land together with him. I don't want to go for Sun Tzu without knowing if I get Colossus, because I don't want to play in third position against a Colossus with Sun Tzu. Then it's Mario's turn. He will go for Sun Tzu, it's the only leader for one civil action, and he's also in first position. And then he just increases his population, builds a mine, doesn't take a wonder yet, but there are a bunch of wonders in a row, so he should still have a chance to grab one at the next turn. lfrantisek has already taken Hippocrates, and he will increase his population, builds the lab first, and he will go for the Colossus, isn't willing to pay an additional civil action for any of those wonders, but with the Suez Canal and Cook in the game, I think Colossus is definitely quite decent, and probably it would not be worth it to pay an additional civil action for the other wonders. I'm happy with what I'm getting, because I get the Pyramids for one civil action. This is probably my favorite HA wonder in anyway, in general. But with Aristotle it's maybe even better, or it's a nice synergy. The civil action will help me maybe grabbing more technologies and scoring a bit more science. So I go for Aristotle, build a mine, increase my population, and I take the Pyramids. The first copy of Knights is coming down the row, and Mario as Sun Tzu might be able to take them, so that could potentially get a bit dangerous. He also takes the library, he will take the Knights, that makes sense, and then builds one stage of the library. Maybe he doesn't want to build a lab, because then he would have no free population, and maybe if he gets very aggressive, maybe he can also stay with one lab with having the library. Then it's Frantisek's turn. He will seed and opens the development of agriculture. He increases his population, takes a rich land and the Code of Laws. That will be an interesting technology. And he could have also maybe thought about Isabella as an early replacement for Hippocrates, maybe elect her at the next turn, and could also work for a nice colonization game. But having the Code of Laws is definitely also not bad. Then it's my turn. And I actually made the decision to seed the cultural influence into the deck. It's maybe, in general, I maybe don't necessarily have an interest here in pushing the deck, that the deck is pushed very quickly, because one opponent has Sansu, the other one has the Colossus, and that pushing now might mean that strength events are revealed early, at least one bad strength event I have in hand. And it could just be very nice if there is a 2 resource development revealed, because I mean I could find a relatively decent turn probably, but I didn't like the turns too much. I mean I could build a lab, increase my population, maybe take the rich land, maybe take the warfare. I think that would be a decent turn, but I thought it could be nice to just finish the pyramids instead of building the lab, and so I made a decision to see the cultural influence as a relatively neutral event in order to have a shot at getting 2 resources now, and the development of planning is opened, and as you can see, one of those options are indeed the development of crafts, which sadly means I have to skip the development of civil life and warfare, but the crafts allow me to finish the pyramids immediately. Like this I can also just stay out of consumption one more turn, which is nice, get an additional civil action, and then with my last 2 civil actions I take the rich land. It's just a very nice yellow card, and also the warfare. There could potentially be some military pressure coming, and then it's definitely nice to have the warfare in hand, to have an additional military action, and also to get a bit of additional strength. And of course I also score 1 science with Aristotle. I draw a tactic, that might be nice to have, but there's only 1 copy of Knights left. Mario seeds and the development of science is revealed. He will finish the library this turn, increase his population to get out of corruption, and takes a copy of irrigation. Frantisek seeds, and the development of settlement is revealed, so some additional population for everyone. He can develop the Code of Laws, I think with the development of civil life, and then he increases his population a bunch of times, grabs the urban growth and the interestingly the bread and circuses, so he will delay his 3rd mine for now, which is interesting. He has a lot of free population, but maybe he just really wanted to have this urban growth and this bread and circuses available. Then it's my turn. This turn I definitely don't want to see it, and I will build the 2nd lab now. I also increase my population to get out of corruption. There are some interesting things that I could consider. There are some wonders, but Silk Road for 3 is maybe a bit too expensive. I think if Silk Road would be available for 2 civil actions, I would definitely think about it, because I think it's a nice synergy with having the 5th civil action from the pyramids, and just quite a nice wonder. I think Forbidden City is maybe not that ideal, because I have already a wonder that gives me an additional civil action. It could maybe be too much at the end, but could also still be fine. There's also Theocracy. I could take it, score science with Aristotle, and it's nice together with the pyramids, but I also already have warfare in hand, so with that I maybe already have a way to get my 3rd military action, and I probably don't want to develop Theocracy and warfare, so I at the end didn't want to take the Theocracy, and I just took the irrigation, scoring 1 science with Aristotle, giving me something that I can upgrade to. I also take the cultural heritage, and because I don't want to have a full hand, so that I can maybe, if I don't draw another tactic and only have the phalanx, and if there's a military push going on, I want to have the option to just take knights even for 3 civil actions, and with a full hand it could be a bit problematic, and so I didn't want to take the reserves as well or something and just develop the warfare. Now I will draw more cards, and that could be nice. I'm also not the weakest, so if Mario seeds, then Frantisek can't really seed unless without the risk of getting hit by a strength event. I draw 3 cards, another tactic. Genghis Khan is in the game, so the heavy cavalry tactic could be interesting, especially if I miss out on knights, which might be the case, because knights will be available for Frantisek, and he could take them away from me. Development of trade routes is revealed by Mario. He will increase his population, takes the alchemy for 2 civil actions, interestingly. Also the breakthrough gets out of corruption with building a warrior, so he definitely invests his civil actions and taking some cards. Maybe he wants to have the option to upgrade to the alchemy, but it seems a bit expensive, I think. And he also reveals the Legion tactic. Of course, he doesn't switch to a new leader yet, so it's still not certain if this tactic will be upgraded or not, but it could be. Frantisek builds one stage of the Colossus, will finish the Colossus so that he gets stronger than me, and he will go for the Knights, so he doesn't want to let me have the Knights, meaning I will have to work maybe with this copy of Swordsman. At least that will be available for one civil action for me now. I was hoping that maybe Genghis Khan will be available relatively soon. It could be nice to have him together with the Swordsman and the heavy cavalry tactic. I definitely don't want to cede now that I'm the weakest. I take the Swordsman. I could potentially think about Barbarossa, maybe hoping that this Legion tactic will get upgraded, and then I could go for 2 activations of him immediately. I think that could be decent, but I kinda also was still hoping that maybe I get Genghis Khan. Nostradamus could also be interesting, and so I wasn't willing to pay 3 civil actions for him, but it could be considered. It of course would be expensive, but getting 2 activations of him immediately could be quite nice and would give me a nice amount of strength. But I make the decision to not go for him because 3 civil action is definitely somewhat expensive. I build a swordsman, I upgrade one warrior to swordsman. One other option that I could consider is taking this Great Wall. And that definitely could help me with the strength at some point, but it also probably would take some time until I will find the resources to finish this. So I probably would have it lying around for some time, and in games with the Ocean Liner service, I don't really want to block myself with an H1 wonder for too long. So if I would have a way to maybe finish it quicker, I would maybe go for it, but with the Ocean Liner service, I think it's just nice to leave yourself open for it, because getting this wonder early can just be very, very strong, so I don't want to grab the Great Wall here. And instead, I just increase my population, take the Urban Growth. Those 2 resources might be nice at some point. I thought about taking the Theology, because it could allow me to put another worker into the military once the age ends and I lose the 2 yellow tokens. And I could also maybe go for John of Arctan. But also with P endgame, bread and circuses might be fine, and there will be another copy of Theology and still a copy of Arenas as well, so I thought I might not have to take this now, that I also would have a full hand, which maybe could be a bit annoying, and so instead I just played this Cultural Heritage now to use the science now. I'm not the weakest, but Mario could get stronger, and then I might be the weakest after his turn, which I was a bit worried about, but there was also not that much that I could do about. Mario goes for the Monarchy, pays 2 civil actions for it, so he is willing to pay some civil actions, but he can also develop it immediately, goes for an Alchemy upgrade, so at least he is using the Alchemy immediately, and then he can also build a warrior to get out of corruption and to also get stronger than me. Frantisek succeeds. And sadly I get punished for being the weakest immediately for race revealed, and it's of course quite annoying 3-player games being the only one who doesn't get this nice boost, and there was no iron yet for any players. So those 3 additional resources or food can be quite valuable, so I definitely wasn't happy about it, but no, that is what can happen when you are the weakest. Frantisek takes 1 food and 2 resources, will finally get a new leader, goes for Barbarossa, and can go for 2 activations immediately. At the next turn he can go for bread and circuses to fix potential happy face issues. He also takes the reserves and, interestingly, the alchemy for 3 civil actions. So those alchemies are grabbed for very expensive in this game. He probably likes the alchemy more here than the iron, because he has enough science to go for it immediately at the next turn. And while going for bread and circuses might be nice, he at least has the Hippocrates token, so he won't, and also still a free population, so he won't have any uprising issues. Maybe he's in danger of a rebellion, maybe he also has knowledge about it, so no. So maybe he plans on going for the alchemy the next turn. Interestingly, he is still on the 2 mines only, so let's see if he plans to build the 3rd mine at some point. And with being at 12 strength, he's definitely also looking a bit dangerous, and I have to see what I will do about it. And you can see what I will do about it. I go for Nostradamus even for 3 civil actions. The problem is I can't really that easily make me safe from an aggression. There are some options that I could go for. If I just build a swordsman, I don't have a tactic that I can use yet, then I would only be at 7 strength, and I would miss one defense card to defend myself. Of course, I could gamble, maybe say I could have one, but the problem is lfrantisek might get also very likely some draws in from the Colossus before his turn, and then I might even be at the risk of losing to H2 aggression, and if there's an early H2 blunder or something, that could be a really big setback, and so I just think it's worth it to make sure that I can defend against an aggression here. I could also go for Joan of Arc, she's available a lot cheaper, and with the additional military action I would also be able to defend, but without having a religion, and could still maybe get a theology. I didn't like her too much, but she is definitely available for quite a bit cheaper. But I thought with Nostradamus maybe I also have a chance to avoid being the weakest now for a while. For Ray, the one event where it matters more to be the strongest is out now, and Nostradamus might be quite helpful with the additional strength. Maybe I can get some nice event knowledge. And Mario can't that easily get stronger. He has only warriors at the moment, maybe can still reveal a new tactic, go for knights, but I thought maybe with Nostradamus I can at least avoid being the weakest for a while, and he definitely helps me. So I take him. Before I switch, I also take the iron to score one more science with Aristotle. I thought that it could still be nice to get the iron, and then I can switch to Nostradamus. I build a swordsman to get more strength and to get out of corruption, and then I take another rich land, meaning that at the next turn potentially I can go for iron and I can go for 2 upgrades with those rich lands. So that is definitely not bad, and maybe I can build up some production, maybe even go for the Machu Picchu, so that could be interesting with having iron or irrigation in hand, but also maybe for something like ocean liner service, it could be nice to have already some iron production going. I keep the 2 event cards in hand for Nostradamus, and I also draw the Open Borders Agreement now, as well as another defense card. Mario has just enough science for the Code of Laws. That's definitely a nice upgrade on top of the Monarchy. So it's 6 civil actions now, and then he will increase his population, upgrades for 1 more lab, is definitely some very nice science production. And he will also take 1 copy of Bread and Circuses, meaning that for me there will only be a copy of Theology left if I want to go for a Happy Face solution from H1. lfrantisek seeds, I am not the weakest at least. The inhabited territory is revealed. I was only willing to bid 1 swordsman because I think bidding 2 would just prevent me maybe from going for the iron, and so I was not willing to pay more. That means lfrantisek is able to win it, but at least he has to send a whole army. Maybe with Barbarossa it's a bit, it's not as costly, but he also doesn't have a lot of food at the moment lying around. Can maybe get a Barbarossa activation with using the reserves for food, but no, at least he has to pay a bit of a price. But there will be the Suez Canal, so that could be a nice opening of a colonization game. He goes for Bread and Circuses now, so he doesn't go for the alchemy first, instead rather wants to have some happy faces. That should maybe make me a bit suspicious that there could potentially be rebellion coming, which would be quite bad for me at the moment. And now lfrantisek then uses Barbarossa for 1 activation to knights. He is still only on 2 mines, and he is also still not building an additional mine, instead an additional farm that will allow him another Barbarossa activation at the next turn, so that's not bad. He also takes the cartography, and this cartography might be useful because of course I saw what he seeded with Nostradamus, and he seeded a vast territory too, so here maybe he really wants to go heavily on colonies now. But his economy is maybe not the strongest, so let's see how that will work out for him. I could of course seed with Nostradamus, but I can also offer this pack, getting an additional military action, which might be quite nice. And also both of those events, I thought that I maybe don't really want to seed them into the deck, because the border conflict might be won by lfrantisek and a wealthy territory as well. And the thing is, both would give lfrantisek resources, and I think resources is something that he really could use. Wealthy territory could also make his Suez Canal even bigger, so I didn't really like seeding any of those 2 events. And there's also the danger that I might get hit by rebellion, so I just offered an Open Borders Agreement to Mario here. Didn't necessarily want to give Barbarossa an additional military action here, especially with him planning to do a colonization game. I rather gave Mario, who has already 3 military actions anyway, an additional military action. Then this turn I want to start building up my production. I go for 1 upgrade. I could now not go for the 2nd upgrade, increase my population, because then I still have 2 civil actions left to grab the Machu Picchu, But again, as I also said when I talked about the Great Wall, in a game where the ocean liner serves, and I think it's just good to leave yourself open for it and not block yourself from with H1 wonders, because ocean liner service would definitely be a lot better if I get it at one of the next turns than the Machu Picchu. So instead I just go for even yet another upgrade, and then I increase my population to not have an uprising issue. And now I either consider just building a religion. If there is rebellion in the deck, then that would make it a bit less hurtful. Of course I would still lose 2 civil actions, but at least not 4. But at the end, I mean, Mario at least has also 2 unhappy workers, so let's see if he will go for bread and circuses immediately. And no, both Blue and both lfrantisek and Mario seeded some events, so there's definitely a danger. But religion also wouldn't make me completely safe. Maybe there's still the option that I could build a theology at the next turn, and then building a religion now and then later upgrading it would be a bit inefficient. And a breakthrough I thought is just a very valuable card for me, getting that for 1 civil action, because I'm low on science and the 2 additional science from the breakthrough might just be very useful. I think I can't copy the Legion tactic yet, maybe I can do it at the next turn. I don't draw another event, but a colonization card, which could be nice because there are some strong colonies coming, and also an interesting tactic, which maybe might be difficult to transition into. Mario will develop the Burden Circuses, he will build one, so now both of my opponents have fixed the happy faces. Mario will also go for Eleanor, and for the Rifleman, that's definitely a very important technology for him. He won't go for the selective breeding, also not for the efficient upgrade, but yeah, Rifleman seems very important, and also getting a leader going. Eleanor is a nice transitional leader, so that should be very nice. The new deposits are revealed. I was happy to see that, because I gained the most resources out of it, and I also just started upgrading my production, so that was a nice timing for me. And also, of course, I saw again what lfrantisek seeded, and he seeded the inhabited territory too. So Vast 2 and Inhabited 2 are in the next deck, which, yeah, that's definitely very interesting to know. Sadly, lfrantisek then takes the Republic. I was definitely eyeing at that copy, because with having the warfare, it might be nice to just go for a very cheap Republic revolution, but maybe I can also do something with the constitutional monarchy. Then lfrantisek will also take the efficient upgrade, maybe he can go for coal at some point, and also the frugality, interestingly. Doesn't go for the selective breeding, the frugality, no, it's an interesting pick. With having Barbarossa and with needing some time until we'll get more food, maybe there's a good harvest coming or something like this. Now it's my turn, I don't have a pack to offer, but I still don't see it. There could still be a rebellion, which would be very bad, and the same is still true as in the turn before. I think both of the events could be very, very, very helpful for lfrantisek, those additional resources that he would very likely get from them. So I really didn't want to see those into the deck. I thought about a wealthy territory because I have some colonization cards, but maybe I also want to keep those colonization cards for the strong H2 colonies anyway, and then maybe I don't want to put too highly in the wealthy, which makes it maybe more likely that lfrantisek will win it, and so I just didn't see it, which feels a bit bad with having Nostradamus, but it might be the best thing to do. I take the constitutional monarchy, it's a chance to get a government form going early, so I just take this one. I could potentially also think about just taking the scientific method and going for an upgrade, still waiting for one of the other government forms. Mario has already monarchies, and but I thought it could just be nice to maybe consider a revolution at the next turn, and even if not, just have it in hand already. Then I go for one more upgrade that will get me out of corruption. I take the selective breeding, that is a nice upgrade over the irrigation. I could of course also still get the ocean liner service, but it might be worth it to pay the civil action just to have it in hand. And with my last civil action I will use the urban growth to build this religion, to at least make me a bit more secure from the rebellion. It would still be annoying because the rebellion would take the option away from me to revolt. I could myself potentially also have set up for a theology. I could potentially also build 2 religions, but then I would commit quite some workers into the religion, which I don't like too much. Could maybe still just upgrade to organized religion, and then I don't need 2 religions, and I don't have the most population yet, so I just went with the one religion, also making space in my hand in case there are some interesting cards to take at the next turn, and at the next turn I could maybe just consider doing a revolution, but there's also the chance that I can go for the scientific method at the next turn, so I was also thinking that I maybe just will go for this. I could go for 2 upgrades, and both Mario and Frantisek, or Mario's alchemy upgraded. Frantisek doesn't have alchemies upgraded yet, but he doesn't have enough science to go for scientific methods at the next turn. He has also a full hand, so he also, it's quite difficult for him to go for the scientific method. He maybe wants to do revolution anyway, so I thought I have very good chances and there's no need to grab the scientific methods for 3 civil action this turn. I can also just go for them at the next turn. I discard both of those events as I don't want to see them in any way. I keep the colonization cards and the tactics, and now I draw an event that I maybe can see. The prosperity could be a fine event. The autonomous territory I probably don't want to see it. Maybe if I should manage to win one of the colonies, it could also be nice to maybe go for the autonomous territory with the Suez Canal. And now there is this ocean liner service coming down, so that is also an interesting option, which is coming down, and let's see if that will be taken away by one of my opponents. Mario goes for 1 upgrade to selective breeding, starts some food production, takes the patriotism and the journalism. Frantisek seats, and the cultural influence is revealed, so one of those events I had knowledge about, and no, that doesn't change a lot. And Frantisek interestingly doesn't go for Republic Revolution, rather maybe wants to go for those alchemies, takes the wave of nationalism, goes for yet another upgrade, and also takes the rifleman. Maybe that was actually the main reason to skip the revolution, because if he doesn't take it now he would miss out on it, especially if he has already a tactic for that in hand. It could be very bad to pass over it, so maybe that was the main reason actually to not go for the revolution to Republic, but he maybe has still a chance to go for the revolution at the next turn. There are some interesting cards available for me now. First of all, this time I will see it. Of course, a rebellion could be annoying, but I don't know if there is the rebellion. There's still a decent chance that there's no rebellion, and I also get the culture for seeding. And also again, of course, I saw what Frantisek seeded, and this time it was the international negotiation, so there's also a strength event coming at the next deck. So 2 strong colonies, the prosperity and the international negotiations, and this H1 event I don't have knowledge about. And there is no rebellions, and instead the barbarians, which actually hits Mario, because he is one of the 2 weakest, but he has a free population, so it's maybe not too bad, but of course still annoying for him. I have some different options this turn. I could potentially just do revolution, I could go for scientific methods, there's also the ocean liner service, and I thought, no, this is not a revolution turn, because there's just 2 nice stuff available. And I also thought it will be very important upgrading my science production, and there's also some nice synergy for it in H3 with Bill Gates, Sid Meier, maybe to a lesser part Einstein, but mainly Bill Gates. And so I think having those scientific methods could be quite nice. And I go for scientific methods, I go for 1 upgrade. I could just go for a 2nd upgrade now, boosting my science production even more. Sadly, it would still not be enough to develop Conmon peacefully at the next turn. Otherwise, that could be quite nice, and then I could maybe go for selective breeding for more population. But even though I have already selective breeding in hand, I made a decision to still go for the ocean liner service, because that's just very, very strong. And yeah, so I went for this. There's also an international Red Cross, so it might also not be too bad in case I go for ocean liner service and selective breeding. And yeah, I could have, as an alternative, also gone for 1 more upgrade, maybe grabbing reserves, or also grabbing the organized religion could be considered, so I think this definitely could be an alternative. But yeah, the ocean liner service is just very strong, and if I don't take it, maybe Mario can go for it. He is of course still in bronze mines, but might still manage to finish it. But maybe he would also pass over it, because he's already upgraded to selective breeding, probably wouldn't go for it. No, but it's just very strong, and it allows me, and that is maybe one main part, what is nice about going for this, it allows me to fix my population while saving up science for the constitutional monarchy, so I can maybe go for Conmon and for ocean liner service quicker than I could go for Conmon and for selective breeding, and that is also a nice argument for the ocean liner service. This turn I copied the Legion tactic, The last turn I think I didn't copy it because I didn't have any events hand, which is also drew this turn. I have drawn the classic army also, by the way, which I was happy about, but I was also worried that I might miss out on the last copy of Cavalryman because there's only one copy left. I draw the trade agreement and the international agreement, a lot of agreements. No. Then it's Mario's turn. He seeds, and the one event that I don't have knowledge about is out now, and Mario seeded in the Cold War, so he is maybe planning to go for some aggressive play. And the Crusade doesn't influence me, so no. lfrantisek steals just some culture from Mario. Then Mario will go for Rifleman, goes for Coal, the Breakthrough, plays the Patriotism, and then takes the reserves. But he is missing one science to go for the Coal at the next turn, which might be a bit annoying, because then it will definitely take a while until he will manage to upgrade his resource production. And he might also have a bit of hand space issues. The Suez Canal is coming down, so let's see if lfrantisek maybe goes for that. First of all, he seeds, and he seeds the immigration into the deck, so a happy face related event. Vast Territory 2 is revealed. I was willing to bid 2 swordsmen and all of my colonization cards. I was not totally sure if it is worth it, but I also really didn't want to give this colony to my opponents for cheap. And so I was willing to bid for that, and indeed one of my opponents wins it, and at least it is a bit more expensive now, or maybe not, because lfrantisek also bid 8, so my bid didn't really make a big difference, and Mario wins it for just a Rifleman. Has a lot of colonization cards, but to be fair, he also had a lot of draws with Eleanor, and he also has the library to hold more cards in hand, so that of course also helps for colonization. And now with that he wins the colony, but maybe Eleanor is a bit unhappy to not be able to discard all of those cards. lfrantisek will do a revolution to Republic this turn. I think that's definitely a good decision. Getting all of those civil actions will be very helpful for him, and maybe he still has a shot at the Suez Canal at the next turn, though with this very low production he is still on 2 bronze mines. It might not be easy to finish that very quickly unless he gets some help with some yellow cards in addition to it, like the reserve, so maybe there's also still the engineering genius left. Then it's my turn. I see the international agreement. It definitely might be that I'm not able to win it. I also considered just not seeding, but no. At the end I made a decision to seed, which it's a bit dangerous. But I was hoping that maybe at some point, it might still take a bit of time until that will be revealed, and maybe I will be able to set up a classic army up to this point and have chances to be the strongest. With the Cold War coming, I probably want to make sure that I'm one of the strongest anyway, so no. But waiting could also be fine, so that's a bit, no, I think it's a close decision. The inhabited territory is revealed, and this time I'm actually able to win it. I'm again willing to bid 8. I again wasn't really willing, I wasn't really sure if it is worth it to bid that much, but again I also didn't want to give this colony away for cheap. I knew that lfrantisek bid 8 before, and that Mary probably doesn't have that many colonization cards left, so there's definitely the danger that I will win this colony, but I mean it's still a very nice colony, and winning it for 2 swordsmen is still a relatively nice deal. On the other hand, I get the ocean liner service, so maybe I don't need it that much. But at the end I win it, and at least I make sure that my opponents don't get it. If lfrantisek goes for a Suez Canal, then now he has missed out on both of those colonies that he seeded, so the Suez Canal is now maybe not even that great for him. And I have to send away both swordsmen and those colonization cards, and now I definitely want to rebuild those, because one of the 2 events that is coming is the international negotiations, and so I kind of want to rebuild. And after rebuilding, the question is, what should I do? I don't have enough resources left to finish the ocean liner service, which I probably would have done otherwise. And I could maybe go for 1 upgrade to the labs, and then just grab some cards. I could maybe also consider going for Antony Gaudi, or maybe just grabbing the Opera, hoping to be able to get Bach, and if not, maybe Newton. So that could be something. But I thought it's maybe not bad to just do Revolution here, because having all of those civil actions at the next turn might be quite nice, and then I can maybe finish the ocean liner service at the next turn. I would still have 3 civil actions left after doing this, so I could maybe grab the cavalryman, even if they are available for expensive, and otherwise I can maybe go for a leader or something, but I just thought having the Conmon going now should be quite nice. Then I draw some new cards, the Iconoclasm, so it will be an interesting decision if I want to seed this into the deck. Mario offers the scientific cooperation to Frantisek, so no, that's he maybe wants to get help to get the coal going already this turn, but Frantisek sees this and rejects the pact, and I think that definitely would be quite nice for Mario to be able to get the coal going immediately. Now he will go for Newton, replaces Eleanor, takes the frugality, develops the journalism for free with the breakthrough, and at the next turn he then maybe can finally go for coal. He has enough science and for it, and with the rich land he will also have enough resource for it. And then he also goes for some upgrades, meaning he is at 14 strength now, meaning I am now in danger of getting hit by the international negotiations. Fronty succeeds, and Nostradamus is giving me some interesting knowledge because he actually seeds the terrorism into the deck, which is an interesting seed, but because the culture is actually very close here, but he might just have low enough culture to have good chances to win it, so it's might be close, but of course if he wins it, it's just very nice. Destroying my H2 lab will be very bad, so I will have to see if I maybe try to somehow avoid this terrorism, or if I just live with getting hit by it. I at least was happy that the international negotiations weren't revealed yet. Frantisek will use the frugality, so he ended up using this at some point, builds one more arena, goes for one more Barbarossa activation, develops the cartography, it's very late for that, and Nostradamus didn't give me any knowledge about more colonies coming, so it's interesting that he still develops this, especially because he won't really have many draws left in H2, so yeah, it's interesting that he still develops it and invests his science into this, takes then the architecture, also the efficient upgrade and the cannons. He doesn't go for the Suez Canal, maybe he can still go for one of those coals because he's still on 2 bronze mines. And he leaves me Bach and Opera, which is interesting. But I mean, it wouldn't be easy to set up for him for this. As you can see, I didn't see it, because I will actually go for Bach. And if seeding Iconoclasm is a bit bad, then, I mean, maybe Newton is also not too bad, and if Frantisek gets Catherine, maybe she's also not too bad, but Bach just has the high potential, and I don't want to destroy this with seeding the Iconoclasm. I also don't want to just let him sit in my hand until the Iconoclasm is out, because I really don't know how quickly this next event deck will be pushed. So I instead just offer the international trade agreement to Frantisek. I will get additional resources, Frantisek additional food. I have a very healthy yellow bank with having one inhabited territory, so even without getting food, I hopefully can finish the ocean liner service and will be without any famine problems for quite a while. And also I didn't want to give Frantisek resources, additional resource production, so I just take the resource for myself. I can finish the ocean liner service this turn. There are no cavalrymen available yet, so I still have to hope to maybe have a shot at getting them. The last event is the international negotiations. I'm definitely a bit afraid of this event, and I considered seeding just so that I can decide what I want to lose from those international negotiations, because losing resource might be bad, because I want to finish the ocean liner service, and now I will have 11 resources at my next turn, and with the Cold War and international agreement coming, I thought it might be quite nice having enough resources to build 2 cavalrymen at the next turn. But if the resources are taken away from me, then I can't build 2, and then I might be the weakest. I might miss out on the Cold War, and things might snowball into a wrong direction for me, for my opponents. And so I wasn't too happy about those international negotiations on top. I considered seeding, but as I said, the Iconoclasm is also not really great to have in the next deck. And and I was hoping that maybe Mario would open this, and that he maybe doesn't chooses resources, because he sees how desperately Frantisek will need resources, but of course food and science would also be helpful for him, so that will be interesting to see which player will open the event and what will be taken away from me, and if I can build 2 cavalrymen at the next turn. I increase my population with the ocean liner service immediately. I will go for Bach. I won't keep him in my hand. I could of course not take the culture production, so that I maybe have a shot at to have the lowest culture for the terrorism, but that might also be late, and I just just maybe accepted that I probably will get hit by that. I think it could be very awkward trying to avoid staying on low culture, especially with the last two H2 leaders left being culture. Oh, there will actually be more leaders, but Cook and Shakespeare are not really that great for me. Cook also will produce me a bit of culture, so and even if I just let Bach stay in hand, there's still the chance that Frantisek maybe also doesn't get any culture, and then maybe he will not seed the seed, because with the culture of seeding he would lose to the terrorism, and then the deck will move very slowly, and all the while I would miss out on the culture from Bach, so I just elect him now. Of course, when I go for Bach, I also want to have the Opera. A very interesting card now would be the Urban Growth. I also considered going for the Architecture, but I don't think I have enough science for it. I still need science for Cavalryman. There might even be some science taken away from the international negotiations, so I think Architecture just would be too big of a science investment here. And then the question is, do I want to have the Urban Growth or the Organized Religion? I still need a Happy Face solution, so the Organized Religion might be quite important. That's just the last H2 Happy Face solution. One argument to not take it would be that there is Marlene and Chaplin, so there are some other ways to get Happy Faces, but I also don't know when I will get them, and at the end I went for the Organized Religion, just so that I have Happy Face solution available, especially if the game should maybe get a bit military heavy. If Rantisek maybe tries to go for a military push, even though it's made maybe not that easy for him with only 2 military actions, but no, I just wanted to have this in hand, but it felt a bit bad not taking the Urban Growth, because those operas are a bit costly, and the Urban Growth would definitely help quite a bit with building those operas. Also, what is the problem is that I'm in danger of getting hit by an aggression from Frantisek. I could have built a swordsman to avoid it, but then again I can't build 2 cavalrymen at the next turn, so there are definitely some issues in this position, and I was just hoping that I don't get hit by an aggression, but I also already sent 1 H2 colonization card away, so there's definitely the danger that Frantisek maybe will try an aggression at his next turn, and he will also draw cards from Colossus. At least there are some aggressions that he can't even play because of his low military actions, and maybe because of that he also doesn't want to try it without knowing for certain if it will be successful. So that was my hope, but I'm a bit in trouble here. Mario will see it, and the international negotiations will be revealed, and of course I was very interested to see what Mario would let me pay to Frantisek, and I was really happy to see that the science, of course I was not really happy to see it, the science also is useful, but I think now that I have that I still have 11 resources, I might at least be able to go for 2 cavalrymen at the next turn, and to hopefully make me safe for the following turns, and maybe even put me in a position where I can potentially win the Cold War. Mario goes for Coldest turn, it's relatively late, but at least it's still H2, so it might still be worth it, and he can go for 1 upgrade very cheaply with the Rich Land. Then he goes for the Architecture, the Breakthrough, the Urban Growth, increases his population 2 times, so that's definitely quite a decent turn. Now H3 will start, and I was very interested to see if I will get hit by an aggression. I was really hoping that I won't get hit by an aggression. And I was interested to see that Frantisek will seed, and something interesting happens because Frantisek actually seeds an impact into the deck in H3 event, and something very unexpected happened because I'm actually not losing to the terrorism. I have the least culture now, so that was a bit of a risk by Frantisek. He has now the exact same amount of culture, and he is basically winning the tiebreaker, but in this case for the event it's maybe not really winning, but yeah, he is considered to have more culture, and with that I will be able to destroy some buildings, and that definitely might be quite huge, because now I won't lose my H2 lab, which is very expensive. Instead I can destroy stuff from my opponents, so that I think is definitely a very important moment, and also also a bit unlucky from Frantisek. Maybe he has some problems because of course he has limited hand space for his military hand. He will at least, I think he will actually go for Catherine and strategy, so it was a risk that he took. Maybe he has also an H2 event that he could have seeded without being at a risk, but he took a bit of a risk here, and he gets punished for it. Maybe a bit unlucky, but it's definitely unlucky, but maybe he also shouldn't have risked it. But it's always easy to say, and you know that I always, not always, but also sometimes tend to push when there is some risk, so I don't really blame him here, and but he gets punished for it. He will go for Catherine now. He will also go for the strategy, so he has some military actions now, can maybe go for a bit of military pressure. He takes the revolutionary idea and also this urban growth. He won't take the cavalryman away, which is very nice, and he will even give me them for one civil action, takes a lot of cards. I definitely don't want to seed because the Cold War is in there, and I will get quite a bit stronger this turn. I can use the ocean liner service to increase my population. I take the cavalryman, I develop the cavalryman, I can build 2 of them. I reveal the classic army tactic, so now I'm at 21 strength, sadly not enough to win the international agreement, but at least to be part of the Cold War, at least for now. But Mario can't easily get that much stronger, so hopefully I will have a shot at being part of the Cold War. And yeah, then I still have a bunch of civil actions left, and there's not that much that I can do with it, because I really don't have a lot of science. All of those technologies might not be that interesting for me. At the end, I ended up taking the computers for 3 civil actions. It's not really that easily possible for me to use them, but there's a chance that I win the Cold War before my next turn, and then I could go for the computers for the next turn potentially, especially if there's some interesting leaders in the row, especially Bill Gates, of course. And it's also a bit of a denial, because Mario could go for it, he has enough science, can go for a very cheap upgrade, and yeah, and then he gets a big boost with Newton and is set up for Bill Gates that maybe is coming at some point. And lfrantisek could also potentially go for it, but I mainly thought about Mario here, and so I ended up taking the computers myself just because all the other technologies might also not be that interesting. I thought maybe about the professional sports because there's Pierre and it can be a very decent technology. I also thought about this engineering genius, which at least might give me some resources for fast food chains or United Nations, or maybe help me with the Manhattan Project, or maybe even Empire State Building. So, and at the end I went with the engineering genius because I just thought I don't really have that much science in the professional sports. Take 7 science, so just because the organized religion is cheaper might already be an advantage. Of course, then I don't really have the option for Pierre, but that's how it is, and the chance maybe not that high that I get Pierre anyway, because both of my opponents actually have arenas. So it would be nice to maybe have a chance to take Pierre away, while also still being able to use him. But if he isn't revealed on my turn, then chances are maybe also not that big that I will even get him. The engineering genius might at least give me 4 resources, probably will stay in hand for a while, so I might have some hand space issues, but for now I still have a bit of hand space, and I will just float the last civil action because there isn't really anything that I can do. I draw 2 cards, Impact of Science, which is interesting, especially now that I've taken the computers, Mario Seeds, and the international agreement is revealed, so sadly I'm not able to win it, but at least lfrantisek will not really be able to use it very nicely, because he has a full hand. Maybe if there's a wonder he can use it to take the wonder, but at the moment he's not really in the condition to finish a wonder, maybe apart from the red cross. Mario takes the democracy, which yeah, definitely will be a nice upgrade to the monarchy at some point, but also at the moment he doesn't really have enough science for it. Then he develops the cannons for 3 with Newton, builds one, builds bread and circuses for 3, and then takes the professional sports, but he doesn't reveal any tactic, meaning that I will stay one of the 2 strongest here. lfrantisek doesn't use the international agreement. He could have potentially taken the Red Cross, but he maybe also wants to use the food to get more population going. And then he uses instead Catherine's ability. The yellow token that I lose is definitely a bit annoying. And then he will reveal the entrenchments tactic, which will make it that he is the wicked, which allows him to use the wave of nationalism for 6 resources, and with him being still on 2 bronze mines. And that is definitely quite a lot of resources for him, and it's very important that he can use those resources, so I think it's a nice move by him. He's now at 28 strength, he takes the patriotism, he takes the urban growth, he takes the engineering genius, interesting that he doesn't take the reserves, because I think the flexibility might be more important here for him, also being able to use it for the military, because maybe his best shot at doing something here is going for a military push with getting some efficient strength from a nice tactic. And at the next turn he will have just enough science to go for the rifleman, and maybe with the Colossus he has already drawn a war, so maybe he starts to set up for a big war here. But I think maybe the reserves could have been the better pick, but who knows, maybe he will find a nice use for the engineering genius. Then it's my turn. And I actually see the iconoclasm now because there is a chance that a Cold War is revealed, and as you can see, it is also revealed. I wanted to get this out as long as I'm still one of the two strongest. And also I will switch the leader now, so the iconoclasm will hopefully be nice for me, or at least not bad. And now lfrantisek gained 6 additional signs. That is definitely very helpful for me. It is my turn, and I also know that one of those events is emigration, and that is because of that I want to fix my happy faces. Of course, there was a risk when I seeded it, but I thought, no, it's not really bad with the Ocean service to lose one population. It would be a bit annoying, and I rather wanted to maybe have a shot at winning the Cold War. And if the emigration isn't revealed, then I can maybe be concerned about fixing my happy faces, because no, but now, and if it would have been revealed, then I maybe could have had some different options, because I don't necessarily need to fix my happy faces. And no, then you can increase my population with the Ocean service. I developed the opera for cheaper with Bach, because there are two interesting theater leaders in a row here with Marlene Dietrich and Chaplin, and both of them also give some happy faces. And now I have some different ways how I could play here, and I go for upgrading a religion to opera. I could have also built one, but the thing is, I want to have enough resource available to at least threaten to go for another classic army at the next turn, because lfrantisek has some potential. He can go for rifleman, upgrade as a patriotism, or can maybe just build 2 more cannons or something like this. Actually, he can't build 2 more cannons, but who knows. Actually, I think, do I know all of the events? No, one event I don't know, I think. And now, so there could potentially be some additional resources, but he can go for a bit more strength. And if I can't go for an additional tactic, I'm definitely a bit in trouble. But now, so I could build an opera. I could build an opera and then go for Marlene, because she would allow me, of course, to go for another tactic with only needing 2 more units. So that could be an idea. But at the end, I actually went for Chaplin here. Of course, probably overall Marlene is the stronger leader. But I thought that maybe this won't be a game where I can really spam those operas. I think I will have to be very careful over the next turns. And then Chaplin is for now just giving me more culture production and more happy faces. Of course, he isn't giving me the ability for the military, but him giving more happy faces is also important because of the immigration. Because if I go for one opera, or actually I could build one opera and then elect Marlene, and then I also, because I still have the religion, I would have I would have no unhappy faces, but then I would have committed another worker into the opera, and I might need some more workers to go for another classic army relatively soon, because it's definitely looking like lfrantisek is building up for some strength. So now I have upgraded the religion, and yeah, but I might also still need a happy face solution at some point, so maybe we'll also go for organized religion at some point. There are definitely a lot of different ways how I could play it, but I thought I might not be able to go for many operas very easily, and then Chaplin definitely has a bit of an edge over Marlene. But of course her military ability could be somewhat useful, but Chaplin is giving me 3 additional culture for now, and 2 compared to Marlene, and also 1 more happy face. And with that I went for Chaplin, I went for the reserves, I went for the satellites, because that might potentially be a nice technology for some impacts, and I also went for the engineering. So I take a lot of those, or take a lot of cards. With those 2 blue techs, maybe I could potentially be nicely prepared at the end of the game for something like Impact of Progress, and both of those might also be useful if the game will be more peaceful than expected. I can use the engineering to build some cheap urban buildings. If I really need some military, I can maybe threaten to get a bit more strength with having the satellites in case I don't get any air forces or something. So I thought both technologies could potentially be useful, could be nice for some impacts, and so I took them both in hand, even though that could potentially cause some hand space issues. I draw some cards, not a colonization card. Shock Troops tactic is interesting, especially if I should get modern infantry, but also will require a lot of resources, because I still need a lot more cavalrymen for that. Mario offers a peace treaty, but lfrantisek is showing that he has some military intentions and isn't accepting this pact. Mario will go for the architecture for free with Newton. He will switch to Pierre. gets a bit of a culture boost thanks to his 2 arenas, uses the patriotism, and then also builds even another arena, has now 6 additional culture production from Pierre, so Pierre is definitely very great for him. And then he will reveal the fortifications tactic, which will put him at 24 strength. Mario seeds, and a strategic territory is revealed, so that is the one event that I didn't have knowledge about, and so at least there's one colony in there where developing the cartography makes sense now for lfrantisek. I was willing to bid quite a lot, I think even 2 units and all of my cards if I remember. No, I think actually 1 cavalryman, otherwise I think that would be a bit too much. But I was willing to send a cavalryman, definitely would prefer it winning for a swordsman, but I would also, I think, be willing to pay a cavalryman for it, and if I don't win it, at least I make it a bit more expensive, and lfrantisek is able to win it anyway, and he still gets it very cheaply, so that's definitely a very nice deal for him, getting this colony for just 1 warrior, maybe getting some nice draws in, and also getting 4 additional strength, which might be useful for him. He goes for the Manhattan project, so maybe the engineering genius will turn out to be nice after all at the end. He plays the patriotism for some additional resources, increases his population, goes for an upgrade, another upgrade, and yeah, that is his turn. And he will also take the revolutionary idea. I think those reserves could have been maybe very important for him. That would have even allowed him to go for 2 more cannons at the next turn. So no, I think that's maybe a card that he should have taken. Maybe he should have just skipped Manhattan project, or maybe somehow played the turn differently and that he had 1 more civil action. That would be possible, but I think this copy of reserve might just be too important for him if he still has some military ambitions. He is now at 39 strength, so that's definitely a bit threatening already. And at my turn I will actually seed the impact of science into the deck. The problem is that I will have an unhappy worker again when I use the ocean liner service now. And so I wanted to get the immigration out. The impact of science is definitely not a safe seed, but at the moment I would be winning it. And if lfrantisek is pushing for more strength, then it might also be that both of my opponents don't really have the time to build any more science buildings. And I can at least maybe upgrade this. I also have computers in hand, so I thought I have a shot to prepare for it. There's the chance that my opponents won't increase their science production, and I want to get the immigration out. Impact of agriculture isn't looking that great at the moment. I also didn't want to risk losing the inhabited territory to the independence declaration, and at the end I went with the impact of science. Immigration is revealed, no one loses any population, and then I can increase my population. I will play the reserves for resources. I will develop the organized religion mainly to make space in hand. I take the reserves. I take yet another copy of reserves, just taking as many resources as possible so that I can build some armies, while maybe also some units, while maybe still being able to invest into some operas at some point. And then I build 2 cavalrymen that just gets me out of corruption. With my colonization cards, I'm also not in danger of an aggression. I'm also not the weakest, at least at Mario's turn, and so I think that is quite a fine turn, getting those reserves and making sure that I can get those cavalrymen going, getting out of corruption. Of course I could have developed something different than organized religion, but I might still need 1. So maybe upgrading the religion was not that great after all. Maybe I could have also upgraded the lab with Bach instead of the religion. No, but let's see if I will build 1 religion at some point or not, but I thought it might be very likely that I need to build 1. I draw the modern army tactic. I didn't take the modern infantry, which could have been an idea, but I also thought that really setting up for 2 shock troops tactic would also require quite a lot of resources, and there's still a chance that I get this copy of modern infantry, because both of my opponents already have riflemen, and there's also still a chance that I get air forces, in which case I maybe don't really need to go for shock troops, and even if I miss out on air forces, maybe it will still be better to just stay on classic armies. Mario seeds while still being the weakest, and Iconoclasm is revealed. That event was seeded by me, and lfrantisek will lose Catherine now, and losing the military action could be annoying for him. Mario takes the communism, interestingly. He doesn't really have enough science for it. Maybe he plans to do a revolution, but it's definitely interesting. And then he builds a cannon and gets out of corruption with increasing his population. And then I am the weakest again, but Frontisek doesn't see it. Instead, he tries an aggression against me, but I have the colonization cards that I need to defend against this. Frontisek will go for an instant replacement for Catherine, will go for Einstein, and he will go for computers, which of course mean that I'm at the moment not winning the impact of science any longer. But I also thought that at this point, with Mario getting Pierre, with Frontisek still being in 2 bronze mines, and maybe him not really being able to push off a war or something like this, I thought that Mario is maybe the bigger contender for the first place, and it might still not be too bad in case I'm at the second place at the impact of science. It might still be a decent impact for me, just because I gained some points against Mario. Frontisek will take the Pro Sports, will take the Efficient upgrade. Then I see the impact of Industry, which might be a fine impact. Sadly, there is another Happy Face related event in there. There could have been also a Strength event, so maybe I could have considered not pushing, but I just thought it could be nice to get all of those impacts in there. Maybe I will draw some more nice ones. On the other hand, I will also go for the United Nations this turn, so maybe I could have just kept it in hand, maybe even offered international tourism. So I'm not really sure why I see that here. Maybe I wanted to get the impact of science out quickly. Maybe I was fearing that Mario will build a journalism or something, but he needs a lot of resource for the fast food chain. So now maybe I could have just offered international tourism. Of course, that would cancel the international trade agreement, so maybe I really needed this resource. We can maybe take a look at this at the end of the turn. But now offering that maybe could have been an idea, even though the question is, of course, now, I mean, maybe that would give my opponent's more culture than me, but I think it should be fine to offer it to Frontisek. So yeah, I'm not sure about pushing here. I don't remember it exactly why I pushed here instead of offering this pack, but maybe we will see if I need this resource or not. First of all, we'll build 1 swordsman so that I'm not the weakest. There could potentially be impact of strength in there, and actually 2 of those impacts are from Frontisek, and it definitely would make sense if he has seeded impact of strength. So I think it's quite important also to not get hit by yet another aggression. I will take the United Nations. This and the Empire State Building will be the last wonders left, and the United Nations might be the better one or the more predictable one. And yeah, and if I draw some nice impacts, maybe I can also use the ability of the United Nations to evaluate an impact. I used Engineering Genius because I don't know if I will be able to use it still at the next turn, and that those 4 resources might definitely be quite nice to have. And then I still have 2 civil actions left. I build a religion to get out of corruption. I get a culture production immediately, and maybe I can also still upgrade it at some point. And then with my last civil action, I just took the modern infantry because I still don't have air forces. I mean, don't know if I will be able to make a nice transition into shock troops, but it could still be nice maybe to have a way to get a bit of additional strength in case it is needed without needing to commit more workers, and I just don't have that much else to do anyway. I could potentially also consider developing the selective breeding, but then I don't have enough science for the air forces, which could be important. I mean, Frontisek is not really that dangerous. He has only the reserves in hand that he can use for the military. He can't finish the Manhattan Project. There are no events that could be revealed before his turn that could help him. And Mario is also not looking that threatening, so maybe I could develop the selective breeding, but maybe it could also still be nice to have the science available for those blue techs. So I didn't want to commit to this yet. Maybe I can also just fix the famine with building another farm, and I maybe won't need a selective breeding at the end. So I don't have the most free population. Impact of population could be a fine impact. Mario seeds and impact of science is revealed immediately, which gives Frontisek quite a nice boost, but at least I still gain +7 culture against Mario. Mario will take the military build-up, will take the reserves. He needs those reserves in order to be able to finish the fast food chains at next turn. He can upgrade a mine. It's of course very late, but with the efficient upgrade it only costs him 2 resources, and he gets 2 more production immediately, and he gets out of corruption, so that should still be a very nice deal for him. And what he doesn't know, he also will get 2 more culture for the impact of industry. Frontisek seeds, and another of those impacts are in there. out of those that score 14-7-0, and it's the same scoring again. Frantisek wins the impact of strength. It was important at the end to build a swordsman, so I score 7 and Mario scores 0, and I was happy to see this, of course. With both of those very strong impacts, Frantisek might be able to still pull something off, but I still thought he has maybe not the greatest position, and I was mainly happy to get the 7 additional culture against Mario. Frantisek will go for Bro Sports, scoring some culture with Einstein. He will also go for Mechanized Agriculture, developing 2 H3 technologies, which could potentially mean that the impact of technology is coming, and he is also upgrading this one farm, so maybe it's a preparation for some impacts, or maybe it's to get more population. So maybe he won't really be able to use the population, but it might be nice for the impact of population. This time I offered international tourism to Frantisek, because I still think he is Mario is the bigger contender. And so I offered this international tourism to Frantisek, and and then I thought about some different options. I thought about even evaluating impact of population, but at the end I will just maybe play it into the deck, or if I draw another nice impact, maybe see the other impact, and then maybe evaluate impact of population, or see the impact of population and evaluate the other impact. I can use the ocean liner service to increase my population. Then I will develop the engineering. And as I said, I thought about finishing the United Nations, evaluating impact of population now, before Frantisek maybe will get more population out. Mario probably won't get more population out, but I thought it might be better to just get a bit of culture production going this turn. Of course, if I evaluate it now, I can score some culture now and still seed it. But if I draw a decent impact, then that doesn't really make a difference. And if I don't finish United Nations, I can build an opera to get additional culture production. I think I could have also finished United Nations and maybe built an opera with those reserves, but I don't remember all of the variations that I tried exactly, but at the end I came to the conclusion that I want to start with building this opera. I take the endowment, that gives me maybe 6 additional culture, and I will actually still develop the selective breeding, but also taking the revolutionary idea, so that I can still develop the satellites the next turn. I could have also taken the urban growth. That might allow me to build even another opera at the next turn, but I instead went for upgrading this one religion, because I thought there might be impact of happiness in there, and after the age ends I would have an unhappy worker, so that could potentially make quite a big difference. I might need happy faces anyway when I evaluate the impact of population, and so I just went for that now. It's also a nice upgrade for the impact of architecture. It's very cheap. And at the next turn now, without taking the urban growth, I sadly won't be able to go for another opera and finish the United Nations and fix my famine. That would have been possible with the urban growth, but with the revolutionary idea I can go for the satellites, which could be nice for some impacts. Frantisek definitely could have seeded impact of progress, or maybe also variety in. And so I thought it could be nice to be able to develop this. Would also allow me to have some nice impacts for myself, and that I could still play on and evaluate impact of population with the United Nations. And sadly I don't draw another impact, meaning that I probably won't be able to use the evaluation ability of the United Nations. It's the last round. Mario starts with offering a peace treaty, so he kept this in hand for quite a while. And this time Frantisek will accept, so it doesn't seem to have an intention to play an aggression. Mario plays the military build-up. He's just enough resource to finish the fast food chain, so this military build-up allows him to put one more work into the military to score one more point for the fast food chains. Sadly for him, the impact of strength is already out, so the strength doesn't really help him, but maybe there's the impact of competition is in the deck. He can finish the fast food chains for 22 points and then takes the opera, maybe as a denial from me even. And I think I thought about the movies for a bit, but he denies this option. Frantisek opens the impact of technology, so the impact order has been relatively nice for him. He was strongest the last turn when he's opened the impact of strength, then he developed 2 H3 techs, and then the impact of technology was revealed. So that has been nice for him, but he was in a position where he needed to take some risks, and he got rewarded, and with those nice impacts, I mean all of those 3 impacts were really nice for him so far. And with that he actually, might have still some chances. He will go for an upgrade to Bro Sports, increases population, develops the rockets to score some culture with Einstein, goes for another upgrade, builds a religion for a bit of additional culture production, and then plays the positional army tactic to get stronger again, but impact of strength is of course out. He also takes the civil service away, sadly. I could have developed it instead of the satellites, which would also help me for a potential impact of government. And as we can see, Frantisek stayed the whole game on just 2 bronze mines. So he he committed. He didn't want to build this mine at all, and taking account that he was only playing on 2 bronze mines for the whole game, he didn't manage too badly. He is still in the running now. My turn, I will seed. The impact of industry is revealed, which is now a bit better for Mario than for me, but it's still nice for me against Frantisek. I can use the ocean liner service, which will be nice for the impact of population. I can play the endowment. Then I can play the revolutionary idea, I can develop the satellites, play the reserves, and I have 2 ways to fix the famine. Either I could just play the reserves for food, or I can play them for resources, and then I have enough resources to go for another farm upgrade, and I think it just makes a lot more sense to go for this farm upgrade, even though it has of course the impact of agriculture in my hand, but there could still be the impact of balance in the deck. And now, when I've played those reserves, the last 2 civil actions, I will need to finish the United Nations and go for another farm. And if I upgrade a farm, I have 2 resources left. There are 2 things that I could do with the resources. Either just build a warrior, but it basically doesn't do anything, because impact of strength is out, and then it doesn't help for any impact. And I just went with an additional farm, but I also think that doesn't help for any impact. It doesn't help for balance, it doesn't help for agriculture, but I mean, I can't do anything else with the resource anyway. It does actually, no, it also does make a difference for harmony, so yeah, I could have also just upgraded a farm, but yeah, I guess I can also just build this farm and then finish the United Nations for 12 points, so not the biggest, but at least some points. And then I end my turn with 113 culture. I'm 11 culture before Mario. Mario is 9 culture before Frantisek, so it's still very close, and it will be interesting to see how this game will end. The first impact is the impact of balance, so the building the farm was quite nice. I gained the most culture out of it. Mario gains 2 culture against Frantisek. There is the impact of culture, interestingly, maybe seeded by Mario just to get some points over Frantisek. And I gain the most culture out of it, which makes my position now look very nice. Then there is the impact of competition indeed, which is nice for Mario, so he catches up some points. Also for Frantisek, the impact is not too bad, but he is falling behind Mario even more. And then the impact of population is nice for me. And the last impact is the impact of happiness, which is plus 14 for me, plus 12 for Mario, plus 16 for Frantisek, so there weren't any changes in the order. At the end, I'm able to win this game, but it's relatively close. Mario is not that much behind me, and Frantisek is also not that much behind, so a relatively close game, but of course I'm happy that I managed to win it at the end. Now, Frantisek definitely played a bit of a special game with not building the 3rd mine at all. Not really sure if it was the right thing to do. He had at many points a lot of free population. Just building this mine and getting a bit more production, I think, wouldn't have hurt him, but but he still managed to do some nice stuff. He made up for his low resource production with having a lot of civil actions and with using a lot of yellow cards. He was able to build a bit of military pressure, but at the end he wasn't really able to threaten a lot, and with that lost the game at the end. And I just the beginning had some issues, missed out on the fray, went in for Nostradamus, started building up my iron production. I left myself open for the ocean liner service, which I was able to build, and then I went for the common revolution and had a relatively nice economy going then. And then there was a bit of a crucial time around the end of age 2 and beginning of age 3, because there was the international negotiations. I didn't know if I will be able to build 2 cavalrymen at the next turn. Mario didn't take resource away from me that allowed me to go for 2 cavalrymen, and which I think was very important. And also Frantisek succeeded, opened the terrorism, and I think that if I would lose this terrorism, then I think the game definitely might go differently with not having this lab. It would have been not easy to rebuild it, so I think that was also a very important moment. So overall, a very close game. It could have gone differently. And yeah, but of course I'm happy that I have won it at the end. And now with this game finished, we can also take a look at the standings now. The stage has almost finished now. There's only one game left, and with winning this 3-player game, I've now secured the first place in the group. Frantisek can't overtake me. There's only one game left. It will be a 2-player game against Frantisek. So for me, there won't be any changes in the standings. I will still show this game because it's a 2-player game and I can record those relatively quickly. Also, I didn't have that many 2-player games on my channel in the last year. So for the 2-player games enthusiasts of you, that's maybe a nice thing to see a 2-player game as a change. And yeah, so with that, I'm a secured first place, but there is still one thing to decide it in this group, and that is which player will also move to the next stage, to the lower bracket. Mario has still chances now that he finished before Frantisek. The second place was very important for him, and now he has 2 points more than Frantisek, but he will now be dependent on the outcome of the last 2-player game. If I win this game, he will move on. If I should lose the game to Frantisek, then Frantisek will move on as the second place. So that game will still decide something, and we will take a look at it at the next video. Then I hope it was a nice a nice video, an interesting game for you, and definitely a relatively close one. And yeah, then have a nice time, and see you at the next video.